Retired IAS officer of the 1984 batch, nearly 4 decades of Indian governance. Mr. Jalaj Shrivastava
went into IPS in my first shot, missed the IAS by a single rank. I was only 22 years old, I did not have any mentor.
A civil servant's most important quality, and it is not what most people say.
My job is to deliver the water to the needy person at the end of the stream. And that is the job of a civil servant.
Hello everyone and welcome to FaceTime with Leaders powered by Directors Institute World Council of Directors. I am your host Tanay All. There is a version of public service that most of us never see. Not the press conferences or the policy announcements, but the person in the room at 2 in the morning figuring out why the food grain is not moving, why the waterway is sitting up, and why the tax system is leaking. Today's guest has been that person across multiple states, several ministries, and nearly 4 decades of Indian governance. Mr. Jalaj Shrivastava is a retired IAS officer of the 1984 batch. Over a career spanning nearly 4 decades, he has served as chairman of the Inland Waterways Authority of India, additional secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, chairperson of the New Delhi Municipal Council, commissioner of trade and taxes in Delhi, executive director of finance at the Food Corporation of India, and CMD of the Delhi Finance Corporation, amongst many other roles across Goa, the Andamans, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Meghalaya, and Delhi. But before any of this, he was a physics lecturer at St. Stephen's College, University of Delhi. So please, all of you together, welcome Mr. Jalaj in today's session. Thank you so much, sir, for making it today.
Thank you so much, Tanay. It's such a privilege to be here. Carry on. I'm all yours.
Sir, before the IAS, before the ministries, before running some of the largest public institutions in India, you were standing in front of students at St. Stephen's College teaching physics. And today, in a different form, you continue to engage with learners by mentoring UPSC aspirants through podcasts. What made you walk away from the classroom and towards government? And has the physicist ever shown up in how you actually govern?
Actually, it's a multi-pronged question you've asked me there, but I'll try to respond to some of these. You see, the answer will be somewhat unconventional. As to how I got into teaching, I got into college, I did my physics honors from Stevens and then my MSc. I entered college when I was only 15 and I was 20, therefore, when I passed out. So, fate was kind to me. I got this teaching assistantship, as you call it, the lecturership in St. Stephen's College itself. So for a year I taught there before going headlong into the UPSC. So therefore it was the portico to what I wanted to be anyway. It was not that I deserted one and went to the other. Teaching has never left me. It is genetically into me. Both my parents were teachers and my grandparents were into the legal profession. So the flip side is that both of these professionals are very fond of talking, so you'll have to bear with me. Having said which, I think it was a huge blessing to be a teacher. You see, it teaches at the age of 20. I experienced this, that you're pushed into a place where quite a few students, if I may call them, were my age. And I knew them from earlier, they were my buddies, but to extract respect from them on the basis of not position but knowledge, something, that X factor. And I think that lesson for 1 year which I learned as a teacher will stay with me, has stayed with me forever and will stay with me forever, which is man management at that level. You have 40 more brilliant people, higher IQ, possibly many more skills. Whether it was students then or government officials, or as the DC I'm having the departmental heads meeting, they any day more about their subjects than I do. And I've headed corporations, I've been CMD of 2-3 places, been members here and there. Same thing exists, that you have to take a decision based on the multiplicity of expertise around you. So how do you address 40 very bright people by doing thrice as much work and hard work, anticipating their questions, preparing for them, looking into what will make them satisfied at the end of it and agree to be with me. They may have differing viewpoints, but they will have to come around to it. As for whether the physicist in me has ever left, I don't think it can ever leave you. All of decision making is basically a logic circuit. Our brains are wired in that way. And I think the STEM students, the engineering students, probably more so than me. I'm a pure physicist by educational background. So the way we work is, a problem is presented to you, you take every factor which is relevant to the problem and you have to throw out the factors which are not relevant to that problem, and then you work around to what are the most likely, least likely, what are the most advantageous, least advantageous, and then you go around putting this matrix, and then you come to a decision on which ultimately it's your call. And quite often in this environment it's your neck. So that I think will always remain. As to whether physics has actually directly contributed to any job, any task, yes it has. In the Home Ministry there was one case in which I had to prove to my bosses and their bosses that a certain bullet was perfectly capable of killing a certain man. And x-axis, y-axis, I took the then Home Secretary's note sheet and I grew the XY axis and I had to explain to him. Well, that's the closest you can imagine my knowledge of physics has come in handy. But in general, there are so many logistics issues, civil aviation, shipping, this, that. A lot of taxation matters was simply mathematics. A lot of revenue generation was mathematics. So I think all this is, you don't say, okay, I'm putting the physicist out, I'm putting the teacher out, and I'm going to do this. It's a beautiful amalgamation of all those avatars we go through.
Yeah, and very rightly said, whatever we face probably early in our life, what choices we also subconsciously take, those govern our future thoughts, how we look at life, and that always, I guess, extends later on, right?
Yeah. And then you see, I went into IPS in my first shot, missed the IAS by a single rank. I was only 22 years old. I did not have any mentor. I didn't have anybody in my family who was ever in the civil services. That again was a blessing, because believe it or not, till then you are a student and suddenly you become a man with all that very tough training.
Yeah.
It makes your mind it gets your mind trained into that mode that if I think I can do it, then I will end up, my body will follow. That sort of thing, I think is a huge blessing if I look back. And then in the IAS, of course, the same.
Yeah. Sir, your postings span agriculture, taxation, national security, urban governance, waterways, aviation, and finance. Most officers build a career inside one or two of these. You work seriously across almost all of them. What does that breadth do to a person, and what can someone who has moved across that many domains see about how India works that a specialist simply cannot at times?
You are absolutely right. There is this specialist versus generalist debate which has been going on for quite some time. In fact, it started in Pandit Nehru's time. He wanted to just remove the entire lot and bring in with the economists and diplomats and this and that. Anyway, that aside, you see, the fact that one is moving across so many domains. If I were to look back, I would say I have overlapped, but spent about 10-12 years in infrastructure and business development and creation of events, even entertainment events. You are in the industry yourself. The Delhi International film fest that happened, might, etc. There was so much happening.
Yep.
From selling liquor with ISO certification, the first in the country of its kind. I've sold liquor for 4 years, and all the standards which you see in Delhi, Gurgaon, etc. is Delhi specifically is a lot because of the little humble efforts my team and I put into it. So that infrastructure, transportation, about 4-5 years, inland waterways, civil aviation, shipping, Delhi Metro Transport Department, about 4-5 years, 6 years. Pure finance as ED Finance, Commissioner Taxes, whether in NDMC or also Delhi Finance Corporation, another 7-8 years. And then tribal, pure physics person through IPS, going to IAS, and ends up in the Northeast in 85 to 91. Those very interesting 6 years. And again, as ED Northeast in the Food Corporation, I took charge of Northeast in addition to being ED Finance. Those 2 years. So those 7 years, 8 years odd. Completely shifted to Northeast, study of Northeast and study of tribal management. What are their issues? What are the unique issues? And obviously, what are the security aspects of the Northeast? All that comes in rather as a good cherry on top in a good environment. And then one goes completely across to a very different field, medical department and agriculture. About 8, 9, 10 years I've spent in agriculture, from the point where a crop is grown to all the subsidies and incentives which the farmers are getting, all the soil health cards and so on, to actual production and procurement of food through Food Corporation, through to food processing as in the Industries Department and DSIDC, etc. And then its eventual distribution of those products which was being done through the marketing infrastructure. So the end-to-end I have done in agriculture of about 10-12 years. I would say it's building 4 expertises and not just one. And then I have this unique, very odd quality that when I switch to another job, I can completely switch to the new job. So it takes maybe a month or 2 to just revive the old skills and be back in it. But I'm sure that there are officers who have done far, far better than I have when they have picked up a certain expertise. One of my batchmates, for example, has spent of the 37 years, has spent close to 20 plus years in one single education department. And sometimes I envy them. But if you look at the range of options in my now, I call it my third innings. I retired in 2021 at the age of 60. Now I'm 65. So I was doing a lot of stuff, including writing OTT serials and
oh wow,
and writing thrillers and stuff.
Oh, lovely.
So I have done all that. So now is my third innings. So for example, I joined IFT for an MBA course during 2005 to 8.
Okay.
Right, I was completely in service. I didn't have to.
Yeah.
But my physics background meant that there were certain skills which I ought to have acquired. So this MBA program, obviously I was attending things on weekends. It gave me some things which came in very handy when I was in DSIDC and I was doing logistics issues, handling logistics issues in the Food Corporation of India, and much later on in NIDCO, Andaman Nicobar Islands Corporation, etc. The point I am underlying here is that one should always continue to be not just a teacher but a very good student. And I consider myself more of a student than a teacher or a mentor of UPSC kids.
And I think the number of things you can do today is a reflection of the number of places you have been, and hence the interest also is in more than one place, I guess, because
oh yes,
when you see so much, you also want to be a part of, I guess, a little more.
I think except for any housewife, nobody else can multitask as much.
Oh.
I'm sure a civil servant, a typical civil servant, goes through a lot of very uh, very different assignments.
Yeah.
How do you expect a physics person landing in Arunachal and doing tribal welfare, tribal management, security issues? When I was secretary to Governor Goa, it was complete. I mean, I would vie with probably the ITC floor manager or some executive manager over there, because I was receiving absolute President of India, Vice President of India, that level of guests. How to be well dressed, how to look after their needs, how to look after their food, the small little things. So I was a major domo of the Raj Bhavan, which was again a good. Being a foodie, it didn't hurt at all.
100%. Sir, you were also chairperson of the New Delhi Municipal Council between 2013 and 2015, responsible for one of the most visible and scrutinized patches of urban India, Lutyens Delhi, the diplomatic enclave, which is of course in Connaught Place. Urban governance in India is often where public trust in government is most directly tested. People experience it every single day in their street, their water, their electricity. What does running a body like NDMC actually teach you about the gap between what governance looks like on paper and what it actually feels like on the ground?
You see, the fact that NDMC, unlike any other municipal area in the country, has the diplomatic enclave, has the president's house and all the ministers, union ministers, etc. A lot of the land, strictly speaking, does not belong to NDMC. You know, it's foreign soil. This is president's estate. This one is CPWD land, etc. So it's not just one amassed, aggregated area of 42 square kilometers. There are patches. When there are patches, there are huge patches of prosperity, multi-storied buildings, the Khan Market, the Lutyens, the this, that, what have you. And then there are the backyards. If you were to go into Connaught Place as on foot, as I have done since my childhood, okay, I grew up here. I grew up in Jalpad, so
likewise,
I'm very familiar with the back alleys.
Yeah.
For the shortcuts and nothing else. You see, there are massive areas of, I would say, squalor. I will not mince words here. I am not known for that. They need to be improved much more than the facades of New Delhi. And that point is very difficult to address because it's politically inconvenient, it's administratively possible, but it's a nightmare. And people tend to just skip over it. People tend to not look at some things. For example, just near the Prime Minister's residence, less than 500 meters away, वो घुड़साल है, you know, all the horses are lined up there and it has no business to be there. And if you have actually gone there, they are not kept in the way. That colony is not something I would take a visitor to, right? So right, वो चिराग तले अंधेरा वाली बात होती है. A lot of places have not so flattering visage. And I wish I could do something about it, but in the 1 year and 7-8 months that I spent there were 3 model codes of conduct, and therefore that saps into your time of performance. And then I got taken in by the central government on deputation, so I had to sort of leave a little earlier. But yes, there are quite a few things of which I am justifiably proud. In 2014, for example, 10 years, 12 years later, today you're talking about EV charging stations, and they haven't been set up really the way I wanted. Within that 42 square kilometers of NDMC area, I had identified the site for 37 such stations 12 years back. The first ever solar rooftop charging on a school was done in my time, and I got it done by the Honorable Lieutenant Governor in the morning. In the afternoon, I left my charge. I was that keen to get it done. I'm passionately into it. Renewable energy, still I'm still associated with it, with a few projects. I'm mentoring a few startups in that space. And then, of course, the highest ever revenue collection, Y on Y, happened in my time in that 1 year. I'm very proud of that. So all that is freehold. uh, Khan Market and Khanna Market and Sarojini Nagar Market, all these had leasehold, license, this, that. So with a stroke of one purely inspired day, we got all these freehold status. And actually a lot of the shopkeepers didn't know कि ये हो रहा है. So that's something I ought to be truly proud of. But nothing matches the fact that my late father used to go every day at 4 p.m. or so, especially in the last year of his life, go to this Connaught place, take a round, salute the flag and come back. If you were to see the flag, वहाँ पे छोटा सा मेरा भी नाम लिखा हुआ है. That flag, that file was pending for the previous 3.5-4 years. वहाँ पर लगवाना है, and all sorts of objections were there. Today, you see any OTT, any film where you want to show Delhi, that will
be there.
And my father's comments were very interesting कि तुमने लाइफ में एक ही ढंग का काम किया है, ये फ्लैग लगवाया है. That may be so. That may quite be so. Yes.
No, but that's actually that. These are some things, sir, that I think our audience needs to realize that there are some things you do for the country, for people that last beyond you, right?
Yes.
And that is the ultimate aim. The changes that you make go beyond you, and people remember you by that.
Good. That's it.
So you were the Executive Director of Finance at the Food Corporation of India, an institution that manages the procurement, storage and distribution of food grain for over 1 billion people. The financial architecture of food security in India runs through FCI. What does sitting inside the finance function of an institution that size teach you about the relationship between fiscal discipline and social obligation, and where do those two things most dangerously, pull against each other?
Let me clarify a couple of things. Food Corporation of India is almost completely subsidized and funded by the central government. Almost completely. Okay? And therefore there's always a deficit element because MSP and all this has to be administered. There are so many factors. If there is a certain grant which is coming from the central government, yours truly was running with colleagues to Mumbai to talk with the SBI people कि भाई इसको थोड़े दिन के लिए हमारा पैसा रख लीजिए and all that. But to look at the humongous numbers, the daily cash credit limit of yours truly was 24,495 crores daily. That was the cash credit limit. Okay. And dealing with large scale derivatives, some 2,000 crores, 5,000 crores, I mean, it lost its meaning. The number of zeros didn't even register after a point. To look at it this way, all of railways, freight, 45% of it was some FCI or FCI related food grain transiting from one point to another. So that is the kind of operations you are dealing with. You are looking at 40 million tons of food grain and storage and some 75 million tons of paddy procurement in a year. So these are absolutely mind-boggling. The larger issue is the paradigm has changed. If you have seen in Delhi, there are those huge silos, almost 700-800 meters tall. I mean, I don't know, never had the guts to measure. Absolutely humongous, and that was supposed to store food grains for roughly 2 years. So from that food insecurity paradigm, we have come to just-in-time mechanisms for food logistics, which speaks volumes about the robustness of the agriculture and the agriculture procurement and storage matters. We used to have, for example, some 3% storage and 1.5% transit losses, which are down to, I am told, 0.5% and 0.25%. And a lot of savings. If you look at 0.25%, we are looking at a few tens of thousand crores, a few tens of thousand, 10,000 tons of food grain being eaten away by rats. So your blood will boil. But point is, we are looking at million tons of transportation. So wastage में तो आप कुछ भी करेंगे, you whatever else you do, such wastages are accounted for, but to minimize them. Then food security, again, as I said, we are not storing for 2 years now. We are storing for 6-8 months, and the rest is because you're so confident of the crop cycle not failing. So many things have happened here, so many government schemes. Too little time to mention all of them. So that is that's a matter of huge satisfaction as a citizen.
So that's real change and real capacity you're handling. When you talk about these numbers, our audience will realize better what scale we're talking about. Alright, sir, now shifting modes a bit, it's time for our quick rapid fire round. Physics lecturer, IAS, agriculture, waterways, urban governance, national security, 4 decades of India. But here, some quick questions. So, are you ready?
Fire away.
Perfect. The posting that changed you the most, not the most prestigious one, but the one that actually changed you.
The one in the Home Ministry. Before that, I was just a cub. But 5 years in Home Ministry,
Yeah.
you see, those were it's a rapid fire. So my question is ended. My answer is ended. Carry on.
One thing the private sector does better than the government, and one thing the government does better than the private sector.
The government looks after its people in a more relaxed manner and less punitive.
Yeah.
Also, doesn't reward them very quickly because it's the least that is expected. The private sector is a little impatient with the employees. But if you're asking for large-scale efficiency, strangely, the government does better.
Oh.
I will give you, sorry.
Yeah, please, go ahead, please.
But for example, in food storage and transit losses, etc.,
Yeah.
private sector losses were far higher than that of the FCI. So
Interesting, very interesting.
And again, it is perceived that the private sector is more efficient. In a limited sense, they are. But if the government is looking after an all India thing or an all state thing, that is, and of course, you are more personalized in a private sector thing. You are able to limited perspectives and limited goals. The private sector can achieve far better.
The Food Corporation of India, the Inland Waterways Authority, the NDMC, which one kept you up at night the most?
Generally, I don't lose my sleep, and even if I lose my sleep, I never lose my marbles. So, but you see, what you're referring to is not the worry part of it, but the unpredictability part of it. To that extent, a municipal council thing or the home ministry thing, you would expect a midnight call. कि भाई ये situation has arisen, please rush to the control room. But otherwise, if you are unnecessarily getting up in the middle of the night, then you haven't planned well.
That's very true.
And carry on.
Yeah. A civil servant's most important quality, and it is not what most people say.
To be the smartest man in the room. I'm not
Very
taking
correct.
this line from some movie, which I am actually, but there is more to it. Please. Even in all humility, I would say I don't have the kind of skills which 30 people on either side of my table do. Some is from the medical, some engineering, some this, some that. But so my point here is that I don't have to I don't have to earn respect from these various experts on the basis of my proven skill over them.
Yeah.
My job, okay, you're an artistic person, you'll understand. When the stream meanders past several rocks, and these people are the rocks in their own field, it is not my job to just cut those rocks. My job is to deliver the water to the needy person at the end of the stream. And that is the job of a civil servant. To be the most likable aggregator, to understand the mood of 30-40 people and the politicians and the public and the judiciary and the media. All the people will be at the civil servant. And yet this fellow has to meander past all these badhaएं, all these rocks, and ultimately deliver the benefits to the common citizen, the job which he has originally sown allegiance to. So for being that, he has to be emotionally and spiritually of a very high Q, very high quotient. And that's also the biggest asset and the biggest challenge.
Yeah,
So
I think that
but
no, absolute learning. This is what we're talking about, sir, and this is what
and of course, one
leadership
has to be humble.
is
One
about.
has to be very humble.
Yeah.
I will say this on record. One should start with the assumption that one's own immediate deputy knows much more about the office work than he himself does. And one must always respect him. That's how you earn their loyalty.
And that's how one can keep learning.
Yes, and that's how you keep learning.
Sir, could you please finish this sentence? The thing India's governance consistently gets right that no one gives it credit for is.
The thing which we invariably get right is that we sustain the values for which our constitution was written. We are able to deliver consistently what our job requires us to, in spite of what certain great leaders thought in the past, and they were very skeptical about it, or in spite of the various attacks, whether from political or judiciary or media or whatever there is, we consistently deliver. And I'm very proud of the youngsters in this regard. Look at our immediate neighbors. Look at any country around us.
Yeah. Look at the far ones as well. They're not doing so well.
Look at all the neighbors. Look at the oldest democracy. Look at the biggest democracy. Look at the 3-4 democracies on the basis of which our constitution was made. None of them have stayed stable. Point made.
Yeah. Great, sir. That was a rapid fire round. Thank you so much for those quick answers. Now back to the slightly more serious questions.
Yep.
So in 2017, India rolled out the Goods and Services Tax, one of the most ambitious tax reforms in the country's history. You had served as Commissioner of Trade and Taxes in Delhi between 2009 to 2011, which means you administered the VAT system that GST was designed to replace.
Yes.
You watched that transition from a very specific vantage point, as someone who knew exactly what the predecessor system looked like from the inside. Without commenting on any political dimension of the rollout, I want to ask you this. What did the GST transition get genuinely right? Sorry. And where did the distance between policy design and administrative reality create problems that practitioners on the ground had to absorb?
Okay, some off-the-cuff remarks, completely non-political. Then I'll come to the politics, which you'll find much more interesting, along with your listeners. You see, what we have got right is the concept of one nation, one tax. In the VAT regime also, there was a cascading effect, and it was not truly unified. And there was a lot of transitioning between goods and services, right? Various big economies like Delhi, we were transitioning fast from goods to services, and therefore we needed to have the papers and the systems in order. That having been said, what is wrong is, as of today, small little irritants like that popcorn, that huge popcorn thing, which is almost a meme rather than, those little things need to be attended to. Then there are far too many, even today, there are five or so slabs which need to be reduced. There are certainly political forces, because unlike most nations, India is both a source of goods and services and a sink. So some places we are producing far too many goods to be consumed elsewhere. Kahin pe you have mines, somewhere you have industries, and so on. But at the same time, with all these complexities, if you are able to masterfully retain GST and let it grow Y on Y, M on M, right? It's quite a success story. And you have seen your COVID years, you have seen this last few years of madness, and yet you are growing. You may have slipped up from 4th position to 6th position by way of GDP, but point is you are growing when you are not even expected to grow. This is not a small achievement, right? As for completely political and completely deliberate omissions in the GST is petroleum and liquor, and you have registration, land, stamp duty and registration. Now, reality is one area where you need to address it very soundly. It's a lot of money is floating and the government is unable to tap into it because GST has not been made applicable. Petroleum I can understand. Liquor, I've sold liquor for 4 years. We know the problems inherent with it. The government would not like to let go of this particular excise and GST issue. But having said which, GST is a very, very sound thing. Now, a snippet which not many people know. You see, when I was in Delhi, I was also sort of hosting in the Commissionerate of Sales and of Taxes wala. We were servicing the meetings of all the GST Council members, all the ministers, or represented by the secretaries of that particular government. So in one particular such meeting, it turned out that in the center, when there was Congress government, and in Madhya Pradesh there was a BJP government, the state government was writing stinkers opposing the GST. Later on, mirror image. So the then secretary famously took out the previous government's stinker, changed the names because they had to oppose for the heck of opposing it. This is a political reality. We should be bigger than ourselves and look at the national interest. Now, what happened in that meeting, when the entire group went to meet the then finance minister, Honorable late Pranab Mukherjee Sahab, I have never seen the finance minister so angry in my life. He blew up everybody. You do it or you get out of my room. And it got done. So much for GST.
I think that clarifies a lot of thoughts that a lot of our viewers would have had.
True.
So, you are a valued member of Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. We would love to know what made you reach out to Directors Institute and what has that experience given you that your career probably was missing a little bit.
Okay, my bad habit. When I enter into something, I do it with so much preparation. Okay. Here, when I am seriously trying to become an independent director, I have made some comparisons and I have chosen this particular institute and enlisted for the entire series of all those 5 certifications and all those courses and everything, which I intend to do in all seriousness. Only a couple of months have passed. So while at this stage commenting on the pedagogy and all the inputs that I am receiving is one part. Fact is that in the government sector I have been CMD of Delhi Finance Corporation, OIDC, DSIIDC and NIDCO, a total of 8 years, 9 years of experience from the government sector, and chairman of NDMC as well as Commissioner Trade and Taxes. That gives you the perspective of how finances work, and of course FCI. So I hope to be able to contribute positively. The fact that one is shuttled from one sector to another makes my market a little better, don't you think?
100%. More experience, more range, more understanding.
Something which I found was fitting the bill. from what I was aspiring to be. And as I said, this is my third innings.
Lovely, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today and for your honesty and for 4 decades of doing the work that only most of us read about in the papers. So it's lovely to have you on board with us today, have this conversation. I'm sure it was a huge learning for all our viewers.
That's so very kind of you, Tanay. It was a pleasure talking to you and reaching out to all you guys. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Most welcome. Our pleasure, sir.
Bye.
To our listeners, whether you sit on a corporate board, run a business shaped by public policy, work in government, or are trying to understand, what the long arc of work means, today's message is this: governance is not a system. It is a series of human decisions made under pressure with sometimes incomplete information, but still accountable to the people who might never even know your name. What Mr. Jalaj Shrivastava brings to any boardroom is that he enters today. It's not just a resume, right? It's the lived knowledge of what these rooms actually feel like and what it costs to get the decision right. This has been FaceTime with Leaders, powered by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors, and I am your host, Tanay All. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, lead with purpose, and of course, always have fun in your journey. Thank you so much.